Welcome back to RTW's Wild History Ride. I'm Thomas.
I'm Will.
And I'm Rhonda.
And on today's episode, we are going to be talking about pirates. I get to talk about the king of pirates, Henry Avery.
I get to talk about Edward Teach or Blackbeard or one of the millions of other names that I looked up.
I like Teagues the best.
Teagues? I didn't even see Teagues.
Yeah, Edward Teagues.
Whatever he wants to be that day.
And I'm talking about Anne Bonny, Mary Read, and a Chinese pirate named Jing Shi.
I like that. Sounds good to me.
Sounds interesting.
We're letting the women have the last laugh, right? Right, Rhonda?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm excited.
But before we get into today's episode, I would like to talk about how awesome this has been and the fact that we have reached over 200 downloads.
I mean, that's in a short time. That's 6 shows, 7 shows.
Yeah.
Six
it's
or
pretty
7,
impressive.
something like that. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Now, of course, our very first episode, U.S. Fires, did not do very well in comparison to the others, but we were learning, and I'm enjoying it.
I am too.
I am too. And it's great to see the numbers coming up.
I also want to point out that we are now not only multiple countries, but we are in 2 continents.
That's really cool. I was like, well, and I feel so bad because of how badly I butchered all the French names in Diana's,
We
podcast.
ain't in France yet. It's okay.
Oh, true. I did. Yeah. Never mind. They haven't heard it
England
yet.
is not France.
I know. England does not care.
Okay, now I have to correct you, Thomas, because we are also in Australia. So we're on 3 continents.
You're right. You are right. I made a mistake.
That's really cool. I love. It's just cool to see, because that's what we wanted anyway. We wanted some interaction and stuff. We're hoping for more, kind of comments.
Once we fix social media.
Yeah, the social media is just a lot to. My brother's kind of been mentoring us on that a little bit.
Yes. So, and did you want to give a shout out to your Atlanta folks?
I do. I'm going to say hi to cousin Mike and Bo, and everyone go check out Bo Hutchinson Realty in Atlanta. I said he's great. I'm going to say his name. He wanted me to, so I'm going to say it.
I think he goes by Frank on his ads, but
Well, no, he said Bo. I
Okay.
said he told me. I'm just
hey,
listening
go
to the
with
master.
it, man. Do what he says.
It sounds good, but
We
I'm
are
excited.
learning from him, so it sounds good to me.
We are. We really are.
All right, Will, go ahead and start us off.
But okay, you guys. So I'm talking about Blackbeard today. So as Thomas said, his one of his many names was Edward Teach. I think he also went by Edward Thatch or Thack or a million other different names. He could be whatever he wanted to be that day. I think that's great. So he was born circa 1680 in Bristol, England, and they don't really know the exact date of, how old he was when he died or anything like that. They can't ever pinpoint an actual time of birth or anything like that. But they do know his death date, and Thomas might know it too. It's November 22nd, 1718. He died outside of Ocracoke Island, North Carolina, in a very bloody battle.
I got to say, it's on the top 10 of my most tragic video game moments was playing Black Flags and watching Blackbeard die.
Oh, so
That
it did?
one.
I didn't even know it showed that one.
Oh, yeah. Fighting hundreds of dudes, getting shot, getting stabbed, and he's talking about how they're built for adventure, and he dies. And it's like, dude.
Well,
Yeah,
I will say
it was
this:
so
I feel like a lot of these pirates probably, although I don't really know a lot about y'all's that y'all have talked about, but I will say, if I was a pirate, I'd get in while the getting was good, and then go, and then leave my legacy. I'd go for a year, 6 months, leave my legacy, and go. I'd retire, go somewhere else. So as I said, died on November 22nd, 1718, but we'll get to that. As I said, nothing definitive was known about his early life, but a lot of pirates went by their aliases or various pseudonyms, as I'm sure a lot of your pirates and stuff that y'all will talk about will have as well. He was active as a privateer for the British during the War of the Spanish Succession, which ranged from 1701 to 1713. It was a conflict, a disputed succession to the throne of Spain following the death of Charles II. So a lot of it, I think, was just talking about the whether or not the possessions of the Spanish Empire were going to either the House of Bourbon or the House of Habsburg, or Habsburg. Sorry, I think I've said that wrong. But you had mentioned this last week, Thomas, and I was going to address it. A lot of these pirates that ended up going into some kind of legacy were privateers originally, and then they went into piracy after war. So you got to have some legitimacy somehow.
It's because their commissions were removed.
Yep,
Because they were no longer necessary in the eyes of their government.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, when you got to do something to put bread on the table there.
Exactly.
Some of his biggest things that I looked up while I was researching him were that in 1717 he captured a French merchantman and he turned it into a 40 gun warship, which y'all know is the Queen Anne's Revenge.
God, that ship's beautiful.
So that's really cool too. I always think of just when I hear just all the escapades of pirates, I constantly think of like a big grandiose like ship type of thing.
Yes.
Which I'm sure it probably wasn't really all that all the time.
Oh, the Queen Anne's Revenge was pretty impressive.
So that one's
but
from the
you're
40...
right. Most pirates had like frigates and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
They were not these big ostentatious ships. They were something quick with enough cannons to survive.
Well,
and
that's
that was
what I'm saying.
they needed.
I mean, you needed something like, easy to move around and so you can circumvent other ships and stuff, I'm sure. But Rhonda, do you know if any of your pirates kind of had ships like that? Were they small or big? Did you come across anything like that in your...
No, I didn't actually. I don't know the exact size of these. I will say that the pirate I'll be speaking of, the Chinese pirate, she was actually over a very large fleet, she and her husband. And when her husband passed away, they had I'd say 17 to 1,800 ships and anywhere between 50 to 70,000 pirates who were part of their fleet. So again, I don't know how large the ships were.
That is unbelievably impressive.
That is impressive. I don't know how large the ships were. I would imagine they're probably not as large as the one you're talking about.
Yes.
But still an impressive fleet.
That's cool. I was just saying, I was like, I didn't know like the exact, I'm sure that there's exact measurements somewhere out there too.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of his escapades that I could find were in Virginia, the Carolina coast, and maybe in the Caribbean Sea as well. Some of the things that he was known for doing, he established a base in a North Carolina inlet. He was forcibly collecting tolls in the Pamlico Sound, which is a shallow body of water along the eastern shore of North Carolina. And I was we were talking about Roanoke last week. That extends south and then southwestward 80 miles from Roanoke Island to Cedar Island. So all I could tell him is stay away from that island. It's cursed. Those waters are cursed. Every single time they went, it's raining. It's too bad to dock, and we can't find nobody. There's somebody like we're singing songs to try to get him to the shoreline. I don't know, but so that's around where he was known to operate. He also did a prize sharing agreement with the governor of North Carolina, one of the North Carolina colonies, Charles Eden. So I'm sure that was a way of him providing some kind of lucrative benefit for himself, because he probably didn't have a job after, until he started pirating again after that. So let me see here. What else did he do? So, ultimately, it was just, he had a whole bunch of, some of the things that, when he died, there was Alexander Spotswood appointed Robert Maynard in order to kind of pursue Blackbeard, and he was eventually pursued and killed like I said, at Ocracoke Island in North Carolina in 1718. So he really was a young guy, but apparently did a whole bunch of stuff when he was, kind of active as a pirate anyway.
Well, he was so memorable because he was the guy that would tie his beard into braids.
Yep.
Dip him in gunpowder and let him burn whenever he was conquering a ship.
See, I saw that, but I also saw that there were like some matches that he would place under a cap, and they would be like slow burning matches or something like that. So
smoke would come out.
So smoke would billow. So they probably thought he was some otherworldly figure or something like that.
Yeah, and there are rumors that he was involved with voodoo and things like that, because I believe, well, of course, the Caribbean, Haiti, all that
I'm tainted by the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
That too. You gotta love those movies.
I do love those.
But no, there were all these rumors and superstitions about the man because he intentionally wanted to bring fear. Like, it makes me think of, if you ever watch Vikings, Ragnar would do things like tie bones into the ship's sails to play up the image that the English had for the Vikings as being barbaric demons from another world.
Well, intimidation.
Yeah.
That's exactly
and
what
intimidation works.
Very much so.
And that's the whole point of a captain. A captain is not the smartest person on the ship. He's not the wealthiest person. He is the most fearsome and ferocious person on the crew. And that's why it's so easy to be mutinied when you're captain, because if you ever get to a point where your crew no longer fears you, they will kill you and put the next scariest guy in charge.
Well, that's the thing. They're there. They already, a lot of them probably know that they're not captain material anyway. They're looking for some kind of, job that can help sustain them. If they don't think you're going to be the person that sustains them, then they're not going to lead with you or follow you into battle. They did end up finding some of the wreckage of the Queen Anne's Revenge, I think in the 90s is what they said. They found hundreds of artifacts, but it doesn't sound like from the artifacts that they found, I think they found some cannons and maybe some sword hilts and things like that. So, which like you said, Rhonda, there's no telling how much treasure is out.
No kidding. Off the coast? No kidding.
Which I'm telling one of these days, that's going to be one of the live shows, going to look for treasure near where Blackbeard was. Some of the things I found while I was researching as well, I think at his heaviest, he had over 300 men being with him, like whenever he was doing his piracy. Let me see. I'm trying to think. 18th century author Charles Johnson even claimed that he was a sailor that operated from Jamaica during the War of the Spanish Succession. And then I think after that, the privateers, as we said, since they didn't have a war to fight or anything anymore, they kind of didn't have anything else to do. So why not plunder for treasures and riches and stuff and, make a name for yourself? In 1717, he was operating off Delaware and Chesapeake Bays with Benjamin Hornigold and Stede. I think it says Stede Bonnet.
Stede Bonnet.
Stede
yes.
Bonnet.
I also believe that Charles Vane was a part of Hornigold's crew as well.
Yeah, and Blackbeard had an apprenticeship under Hornigold apparently before he kind of established himself as a legitimate pirate anyway.
So those four men, I believe, at one point in time, were four of the governors of Nassau.
Oh, really?
I believe so. It might have just been Hornigold and Vane, but I believe there's also Jack Rackham who was a part of that. So, yeah, at one point in time, Nassau was owned by the pirates, and they claimed it back, or England claimed it back, because they basically turned Hornigold into one of their guys. He was older, and he decided that
he's ready to retire.
Yeah, well, he didn't retire. He actually started hunting pirates. He turned on his own brothers, and
why not use a pirate to hunt pirates? Honestly,
exactly, and that's why they were so successful at eventually routing out the pirates, because others got the notion, why am I going to die for this dude? He got more money than me.
Yeah.
No, I want to get paid, and if I do this, I got a salary.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You have a legitimate job, and nothing changed. Listen, people go where money is. Money talks. Yeah. My favorite thing, and I'm about to close with this, but my favorite thing that I looked up is that he blockaded a port off of Charleston for a week, and I think kind of blocked it for just a whole week. Then I'm assuming I couldn't see as to why he asked for this. I can only assume it was because probably his shipmates had scurvy and dysentery and probably stuff like that. But he requested a chest of medicine and then he left. He was like, okay, bye. Just got to, which, you got to take care of your crew, I guess, even if you want to be, that you're nothing without them. But yeah, from what I can see, as you can tell, Blackbeard is just a name that you hear of all the time, and it's one of those ones that I just, I knew about, and I really don't even know that much about pirates. I know what TV shows and history kind of makes them out to be, but it's cool to see that, there's been some other speculation that he was actually a little bit, he was meant to be feared, but also cared about his people too. So I like that.
Well, that's the only way you can remain captain, because you have to either give them money, food, or health.
Yep. And so
if you can ensure their safety, they are with you for life.
That's right. But that's about all I saw. Just no telling all the treasures and stuff he has out there.
Well, I do have one thing I've heard, and this goes back, I guess, to the intimidation even after death, is I had heard that when he was beheaded and the body thrown overboard, the body swam around the Queen Anne's Revenge 3 times.
Yep.
So, there's mythical person.
That's part of the voodoo claims against the man.
I
don't doubt it, but hey.
Well, you never listen. As we can tell with the ghost stories one, I never will discredit any type of otherworldly intervention there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
That's so cool.
All right, so I'm going to start off with the king of the pirates, Henry Avery. He was Henry Avery, although it was spelled multiple ways. He was sometimes called Jack Avery, John Avery. He was one time called Benjamin Bridgman,
Jack B.
also
Nimble.
called Long Ben. So the guy went by a few different names, but he is the king of the pirates in epithet because he had one of the most successful thefts on the seas.
Well, I'm excited to hear about it. I've never heard of this.
I'm not going to get into too much detail about the man's life because really we're focusing more on pirate And I want to focus on his career as a pirate, which is only like 2 years. Or I think it's actually only, it's 2 years. Because he started piracy in 1693. He was in the Navy. And there's not that much information about his time in the Navy. It is known that he was fought in the 9 Years' War and things like that. But again, when they were no longer being paid, he left and joined a pirate crew, eventually mutinying against his captain, and he took over.
He probably didn't treat his dysentery. That's why they mutant. I don't know.
And so he did multiple things during his time as a pirate. Things involving Spain and also the slave trade. Yeah, not a good guy. I'm gonna go ahead and put this out here. Not a good guy, though. Then again, most pirates aren't. But then you have guys like, as you pointed out, Blackbeard, who still not going to call him a good guy.
No.
But he had a point of looking out for his crew.
Well, you can't change history. You know, it is what it is.
Well, and I think we have to remember that. Piracy has been romanticized recently with Black Sails, with the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and these people were not nice people. They were pirates, and they were killers, they were raiders, whatever it took.
Rapists, everything.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, you had to use scare tactics to get what you want. Honestly.
Yes, and again, I believe we talked about this a few weeks ago. Pirates were people who were lusting after adventure, gold, or were just psychotic people who wanted to destroy the world.
Yeah.
Those were the three categories they were in. You have people like Blackbeard, who more than likely, he did have a lot of money in his life go between his hands, but from the sound of his life, it seems like he just wanted an adventure. Mm-hmm. He didn't care what happened along the way. He didn't care if he killed people. He didn't care if he saved people. He was there for an adventure. Then you have people like Charles Vane, who was very destructive. But then you have people like Henry Avery, who did horrible things like slavery.
Yeah. And
ended up being very successful. The one he is known for, sorry, I lost my notes there for a second. But the one he's most well known for is he robbed the Grand Mughal fleet, and on their trip to Mecca, on the yearly trip to Mecca, and got away with. It was in 1695, and it was about. I believe the fleet was like 25 ships. And he had a fleet of, I believe, like 11 or more ships under his command.
Yeah.
And they just timed it right, attacked, got their spoils. It was, sorry, this phone is kind of being a pain in my butt right
Whenever
now.
they say, like, got the spoils, too, I always just imagine, like, the frantic, like, jumping off the ship. Like, I would literally be, stealing the part, like.
Swimming, but,
gosh.
So it was the Ganj-e-Sawai. And it was escorted by the 600-ton Fateh Muhammad, and they were passing the straits en route to Surat, which Surat is a Western Indian state, or a city in the Western Indian state of Gujarat. I'm probably not pronouncing that right.
Shoot, it's better than my pronunciation.
But
you want me to say the names? I can say them.
No, we don't want that.
But yeah, so they robbed it, and it is estimated. It was estimated at between like 300,000 pounds and 600,000 pounds.
Now, we're talking pounds of gold, not like
no, English
UK
pounds.
English pounds.
English
Okay.
pounds. I was like,
it was gold,
gosh.
but it was in English pounds.
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
What are they
gotcha.
using? Like, I this. What would they even use to carry that? Like, do they just have a treasure chest? I don't know. With your hands? What
Does it matter?
Loaded in barrels, things like that.
It really doesn't matter.
You do whatever you can to make it work.
I would stuff it in my underwear, my pants,
now,
whatever.
See, England and the Mughal Empire were already tense with each other. So, of course...
this didn't help relationships?
No, and it was insured. So the Mughal Empire demanded the full 600,000. England estimated that it was probably about 325,000.
More?
But, no, 325,000.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Is what it was. It was between those numbers. And they ended up paying out to the Mughal Empire for the 600,000 because it was an Englishman that did rob them.
Uh-huh.
And they didn't want to go through all that. But
they had insurance fraud? I'm just kidding.
yeah, they had insurance back then. But this led to the very first worldwide manhunt
Oh, wow.
1,000 pounds was put on this man's head.
FBI's most wanted
So
back in the day.
he was very well wanted. And in today's money, or in today's currency, that would be about 91.2 million pounds is what he walked away with.
I think a one piece, like all those,
Yes.
however much they have on the
And,
poster board.
And no one knows where it is?
That's right.
I have
no
it.
one knows where it is. But that was just from the Ganges Sawai.
Uh-huh.
The Fateh Muhammad also had treasure of some 50,000 to 60,000 pounds, which was enough to buy his ship, the Fancy, 50 times over.
Ooh, Dolly Parton would love
And
that
it was
shit.
shared out among the pirate fleet. And Avery's crew only received small shares, but a small share of that
Of that, it'd be a lot.
is a lot.
Well,
of money.
it makes me wonder. I mean, during do you have is it like the Alaskan crab season? Do you have off seasons? Like, are you just on the ship all the time? I guess like it's just wherever you go, you dock and go for the night. I guess it's a year round thing. I mean, I guess it's not like that, but I would take whatever money. I mean, you're saving it all. I mean, you're just stealing it from other people. So I mean, it's not like you're really
yeah.
using your own money.
Yeah. And I do have to apologize. I've been sick for the past week. My voice is still not back. And also, I was kind of cloudy-headed most of this week. So my notes are very, very scattered.
I think it sounds.
So
good.
I'm just
You're
kind of...
doing fine.
So I'm using Wikipedia as a backup to save my butt. And bouncing back and forth between multiple things, I'm not succeeding very well. So I just wanted to go ahead and apologize for that.
Everybody can lie and say they don't use Wikipedia. They're lying.
Oh
They're
yeah,
lying.
Wikipedia is good for like the quick little check.
Yep.
And then you go deeper and fact check.
They got the
Wikipedia.
sources. That's the
you
best.
You get a little bit of information from Wikipedia and then you fact check it. That's
Yep,
just
that's
easy.
right. That's right.
But I was wrong. I was looking at the wrong thing. The small shares was for the Fateh Muhammad. Mm-hmm. And then Avery was one of the few that actually went after the Ganges Sawai, because they overtook it a few days after taking the Fateh Muhammad, and I believe only
So that's like their bigger ship, that like the big head
the
honcho
big one.
ship.
So only like 3 ships went after the Ganges Sawai.
Okay, I see.
And so
I see.
They eventually took it. There was some confusion. Indian musket fire prevented the pirates from clambering aboard, but one of Ganges Sawai's powerful cannons exploded, instantly killing many and demoralizing the Indian crew, who ran below deck or fought to put out the spreading fires. So they took advantage of that.
Yeah.
And that helped them a lot. And eventually they did catch it. They did take all of it. And he split it with his crew. And basically, I'm going to go ahead and close my notes and just go from here. Basically, he went into retirement. He disappeared.
I would.
He just avoided his manhunt. Nobody knows when he died. Nobody knows where he went. Some claim that he went to England and paid off some locals.
Yeah.
And just changed his appearance enough. 1, due to age. 2, due to various other things. And he just disappeared with his money and was gone.
Well-
And his crew, now they messed up because some of them did manage to disappear.
Yeah.
But I believe about 25 of them ended up being captured. Some of them due to stupid stuff, like a guy sewed coins from the Mughal ship onto his jacket as buttons.
Wow, that
He
stands
did
out.
it.
And so
he did it, officer.
And so he ended up ratting out the other ones and got a reduced sentence to save his life
I would.
by telling which ones were actually part of the crew and which ones weren't. When they captured them.
But none of the people who were captured knew where the captain went, where Avery went.
Nobody knew
He
where
was
he
a
went.
smart one.
And there are all these rumors that he started a pirate utopia and ruled as pirate king. And then there's other ones where he just got
I like
sick,
that.
squandered all his money, and died. But that was very unlikely because when he was in the Navy, there are records that he would not buy tobacco. He would not buy the things that other soldiers would buy for amusement. And he would send the majority of his money back to his family,
That's
back
sweet.
home. And so man retired with a lot of money, and there are all these pop culture ideas of him.
Yeah.
Like Uncharted. Like if we were going to talk about Francis Drake, Uncharted is key, but
Henry Avery's in there too.
in the final Uncharted game, the pirate treasure that they're after is Henry Avery's.
Yeah.
They actually go to his pirate paradise and look upon it. And so I'm not going to go into too much details
No
because it's an awesome
spoilers.
game and
It is
people
a
need to
good
check
game.
it out. But he is very well mentioned in history, and he also is considered inspiration for guys like Blackbeard
Yeah.
and other young pirates that would have been really young in the 90s before they were ever pirates. Because like you said, he didn't start... Blackbeard became a captain in 1717, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty short acting too.
So yeah, and I don't think he was a pirate for very long either, because he served in the Navy first.
Yeah.
But almost all pirates, and then then you have guys like Edward England, who is considered like the closest that ever came to it, and so he was very successful, had a very 1-year career, and then he died. So that's what I'm noticing with a lot of these pirates.
Yeah.
If they're super, super successful, walk away with millions, they die pretty quick after.
They do. I mean, you got a big target on your back.
And one final thing I want to mention as pop culture reference, a series that came out when we were young in the 90s, and I still occasionally check in on it because it's such a good series.
Oh, One Piece.
Oh, yes, One Piece. The Pirate King, Gold Roger from One Piece, and the myth of One Piece itself, the name of the series, is from Henry Avery, the king of the pirates, who had one super successful theft, basically, a treasure that no one has found, and basically the whole point of the series is to find this one treasure and claim the title of King of the Pirates.
That's cool. Well, I actually found a source. I know, they know where Henry Avery went. He's
really?
making music with Elvis and Tupac. That's what, and Biggie.
Don't forget Biggie.
Yeah, Biggie's in there too.
But on that note, I'm going to turn over the reins.
All
Best
right.
for last.
There we go. All right, I'm going to talk about some female pirates, and I'm starting with Anne Bonny.
One of my favorites.
And she
I like
was
her
in
too.
Black Sails. I'm not sure
Oh,
if she's in any of the games you guys have
Yes,
played.
of course.
but
She was.
definitely,
Of course.
she's definitely heavily involved or heavily invested with the pop culture. Her
Yes.
character.
Yes, it is. Now, I'm going to throw this in. Some of our family... Now, she died in South Carolina, right?
Yes.
Some of our family lived there before moving to Tennessee. And I've always wanted to be able to find out if we were descended from her, because she's just so cool.
Is she redheaded?
Yes.
Well, y'all got to get your a little bit of red hair from somewhere.
Well, Mom's not redheaded.
Yeah, I know. I just go with it.
Her hair's black. Mine
with-
mine was reddish, but no.
I'm 6'2" with a 6-pack. They don't know. I'm like,
No, you're not, but okay. You are 6'2", but...
All right. Well, on that note, let's go with Anne Bonny. All right. I know I'm going to go through a little bit of her history. I know Thomas and Will had concentrated more on the pirate side, but I'm going to do a little bit of her history as to where she came from, as much as known, and then go into the piracy, which was short-lived with Anne Bonny. But Anne was born around 1700 in County Cork, Ireland. She was the daughter of William Cormac and his servant, Mary Brennan. Now, William was married, and when William's wife found out that he was taking care of Anne and her mother, she kicked him out. So William,
her.
yeah, good for her. This is all about female empowerment here.
I said women's rights.
There you go. William, Mary, and Anne moved to Charleston in Carolina. I'm not sure if it was called South Carolina at the time, but from the references I found, they referred to it as Carolina. William became a prosperous merchant. Now, unfortunately, Mary died when Anne was young. She was 12 when her mother passed away. Now, Anne married a small-time pirate or sailor. He's referenced both ways. Named James Bonny. Her father was very disappointed. He expected a better match for her, so he disowned her.
Oh, sounds like a perfect match to me.
So between 1714 and 1718, Anne and James moved to Nassau, however you
Nassau.
And as Thomas mentioned, that was a pirate haven back in the day. That was during the golden age of piracy for the Caribbean. So in 1718, James, and I think Will had mentioned this about having a salary and putting meat on the table.
Of course.
James turned informant for the government of Jamaica or Nassau. However you guys pronounce it.
Whatever it wants to be that day, I would say.
And that resulted in arrest of many pirates. Now, at the same time, Anne was becoming acquainted with the pirates. She was meeting them in the local taverns and getting to know these people. And she met Calico Jack, John Rackham, also known as Calico Jack. And Calico Jack was the captain of the Revenge. So Anne joined Calico Jack on board the Revenge. She was still married at this point. She tried to get a divorce. Her husband didn't want to divorce her. So she and Calico Jack just took off on the Revenge.
I love her.
Well, she's what, 16 at the time, 17 at the time.
I would say she was in her teens, yes, or
That's
maybe
what I'm
close
saying.
to 20. They don't know exactly the year she was born, but around 1700.
That's
And
awesome.
she's probably the origin of that red hair don't lie.
Yeah.
That's so cool though. Like, just imagine from her perspective too, like you talking about it. I mean, seeing all the pirates come into the tavern and they have all these tales of like all these battles and
Adventure.
stuff and adventure, and she's just like a 16-year-old girl. Like, she's not, she's probably wishing she could do something else, and that's cool that she did something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, let's remember, pirates, not good people.
True.
Okay, so now moving on to Mary Read. Okay, Anne Bonny was not the only female crew member on the Revenge. Mary Read was also there. Now, Mary was born in the 1690s. Her mother was a widow, and she dressed Mary as a boy to get financial aid from her husband's family. And as Mary grew older, she continued dressing as a man and actually found work in traditional male jobs. She found work as a sailor. After several years, she enlisted in the English army. She met a Flemish soldier, and I think it was in the 9 Years' War. I'm not really sure, and I don't have it in my notes, unfortunately. But she met.
Given the timing, yeah, I'd say the 9 Years' War.
Probably. So she met a Flemish soldier. She left the military. She revealed herself to him, left the military, and the couple moved to the Netherlands where they ran a small inn. Now, unfortunately, her husband died fairly young or fairly soon after they were married, and she was just devastated by his death. So she, again, put on men's clothes and dressed as a sailor, left Netherlands for the New World.
She assumed his identity.
Well, I don't know that she assumed his identity, but she definitely assumed the identity of a man.
Yes.
And at one point, when she was in the New World or in the Americas, she actually was crewing with a group, and the entire crew was taken captive and forced to work on a pirate ship. So she was familiar with the pirates. In 1718, she accepted the king's pardon and became a member of a privateer crew, but that was short-lived. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but the crew mutinied against the captain. And
I just wanted to interject real quick. I did some checking. She couldn't have been a part of the 9 Years' War because that ended in 1697. So it was most likely the War of English or the War of Spanish Succession.
Oh yeah, that was
which ended in 1714.
Yeah, it was
And
like
that makes sense.
1701 to 1714,
'Cause,
something like
she
that.
would have been 7 during the 9 Years' War,
She can do whatever she wants.
and that's at the oldest.
okay, well,
I
taking the
apologize
reins
for
back.
interrupting.
While in New Providence, she met Calico Jack and Anne Bonny. Now, she was still dressed as a man, and so Calico Jack and Anne Bonny didn't realize she was a woman, and she became a crew member on the Revenge. And she and Anne had I don't know if I'd say instant liking for each other, but they felt comfortable with each other. And Anne felt this attraction for her, and this is from what I'm reading, felt an attraction to her and revealed herself that, hey, I'm a woman. And Mary's like, hey, me too. So
Ain't it a way?
So
Surprise!
they struck up a good friendship, and Calico Jack became jealous. He didn't know at the time that Mary was a woman, and so to keep him from killing someone, Mary revealed, or killing her, Mary revealed, and I don't know if it went that far, but he was definitely very, very jealous. She revealed that she was a woman. Now, keep in mind, Anne also dressed as a man while she was on board ship.
Yeah.
And the crew actually didn't know Anne was a woman until she became pregnant. And so she was carrying Jack's
Like, wow, he's
Calico.
getting fat.
She's gaining weight.
Gaining weight.
So she was pregnant with Calico Jack's child, and he actually put her ashore in Cuba, where she gave birth to a son. And I couldn't find any references to the son. I don't know if he was put up for adoption, if he died in childbirth. I'm really not sure. But anyway, so there were 2 female members of the Revenge.
That's so
There
cool.
were.
Well, and I don't know if you came across anything, would they have, been taken apart in the battles? Was
Yes,
it
they
more-
did.
Absolutely.
The 2 of them were ferocious, and they were not scared of anything.
I bet.
Absolutely. And usually, once the crew knew they were both women, sometimes they would dress as women on board the ship, but they definitely always dressed in men's clothes during the raids. And they were vicious. I ran across some testimony of one woman who said the 2 women And she knew they were women just by looking at them. She could tell they were women. She said even though they were dressed like men, she knew they were women. And she said they were even more vicious than the men because they were trying to make the men or talk the men into killing this woman who gave this testimony. So they were very, very vicious. But to continue with the story, in October of 1720, Calico Jack and his crew were captured, and they were tried and convicted of piracy in Jamaica, sentenced to be hanged. And so their sentence was taken very quickly. What, Thomas?
I was just going to ask, now, was there a certain state that the crew was in when they were captured?
Actually, all the male members of the crew, I think there may
Save for one.
There was one male who was not drunk. They were celebrating capturing a ship, or I guess they had captured some loot. I don't know if it was specifically a ship or maybe they raided a town. I don't have that in my notes. But they were all drunk except for the 2 women and 1 man. And so when they were boarded by the government's, I guess, pirate hunter, if you will, the 2 women and the man defended the ship as best they could until they were captured or overpowered. And
The man was killed, I believe, in the fight.
Maybe. I didn't have that in my notes. But they were definitely very vicious as far as trying to protect the ship. And whenever Calico Jack was going to be hung, Anne was allowed to see him, and she basically said, if you had been brave like a man, you wouldn't be hanging like a dog. So, not well thought of.
She's like, the
Was
child's not
he
even
actually
yours.
hung? I thought he was given one of the tortures and died.
Now, I have in my notes that they were hung. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe there's a different source for that, but this is what I had.
I had believed that Calico Jack was gibbeted, or gibbeted, whatever the term is.
I like gibbeted.
And what it is it's where they put you in this kind of like a bird cage and leave you there and let you slowly die of dehydration.
Well, now I don't know about that, but I do know they tarred his body and hung it on the gates so that people would see it. I guess as other pirate ships came to the city, they would see it. I'm not really sure, but his body was used as a deterrent.
Yeah, it's like what they used, if you watch Pirates of the Caribbean, the very first movie, when Johnny Depp's first coming into Port Royal and he looks to his side and he sees the skeletons hanging. They would do that to warn pirates to stay away because we're going to kill you.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to be raided. So.
Yeah, but again, I'm not sure if he was hung. That's what I have in my notes and what I had found source-wise, but that maybe there's a different source with some different information somewhere. But the 2 women, Anne and Mary, and Mary had a lover on board the ship. I don't know what his name was, but maybe it was the one who was fighting with them. I'm not really sure. But they were both pregnant, so their executions were postponed.
Pled the belly.
Yes.
I'm pregnant. I'd say it.
It was an actual appeal to prevent an execution. It's called pleading the belly. And that's what they did during the witch trials, too.
Yeah.
They had that. So if the woman was pregnant, they would wait, and immediately after the child was born, you'd be hung.
Oh,
Immediately?
I believe immediately. Like,
Wow.
they took that child from you, and
let her
bye-bye.
see it. Dang.
Oh, wow.
well, it's like when women give birth in prison, the child's taken away.
Yeah, that's true.
But you're not immediately hung.
I know. Luckily, that's not the exact.
Yeah, we have a little bit more respect for people these days than we did back then.
Well, they sound ruthless.
Yeah, respect for life, maybe. Maybe that's the way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Now, Mary died of either fever or complications in childbirth a few months after the trial. I'm not sure which, but there is evidence that she died, and there's record of that. Now, speculation as to what happened to Anne. We don't know if she was eventually hung. Could be, but there's also rumors that she was either released or escaped, possibly with the help of her father's influence, because, again, he became a wealthy merchant in Charleston. So the rumor is that somehow she got out of prison, either escaped, was released, made it back to Charleston, remarried, and lived into her 80s.
Wow.
And had like 8 kids.
That's
after
old,
that.
too.
A bunch of
for
kids.
that
So,
a bunch
so
of
she
kids.
would have had 10 kids by the end of her life, at least.
Legend.
Because she had the first one with Rackham and then the second one with Rackham when she was imprisoned.
Right. Well, supposedly she made it back to, and this is one of the rumors, is she made it back to Charleston before the second child was born.
Yeah. So, but one of the theories for her escape was that her father bought off the guards and in a rowboat rolled up to the prison, because I believe the prison was on the water, which most of the cases with pirates it was either in islands or
Makes sense.
archipelago kind of thing.
Yeah.
So he rolled up in the rowboat. They let her on, and he took her back to the Carolinas.
Wow.
Personally, he wanted to. He wasn't going to let his daughter, even though he didn't like her decisions, he wasn't going to let that little girl die.
Bless.
Yeah, and at this time, she still would have been a fairly young woman. We're talking about
20.
They were captured in 1720, so she would have been 20, maybe 21, since they don't know the exact year of her birth, but still a very young woman.
She lived a lot of life.
Yes, she did.
She did.
That's cool.
Okay, and for my final female pirate, and I hope I'm saying this correctly, Jing Shi. And she was in China. She was born. Now, this is after the golden age of piracy in the Caribbean. She was born in 1775 in China. She became a prostitute working in a floating brothel in Canton, and she married.
Floating.
She married another pirate named. And of course, she wasn't a pirate at this time, but she married a pirate named Jing Shi. I'm sorry, Jing Yi. In 1801. Now, Yi commanded the Red Flag Fleet. And under their leadership, because she married him with the understanding that they would be equals and she would participate in whatever he was doing. So under their leadership, the fleet grew from 200 ships to eventually 17 to 1,800 ships.
Wow.
That is
Yes.
very impressive.
It is.
That's almost as big as a Pepsi Cola's fleet.
We will talk about
That's
that
another
time.
story. Now, Yi died in 1807. At the time of his death, and I'm sorry about that, I'm kind of like Thomas. I have allergies going
Allergy
on.
season, y'all.
And at the time of his death, the Red Flag Fleet included approximately 50 to 70,000 pirates. Now, instead of stepping down with her husband's death, she took charge. So she focused on business and military strategy. And she actually set up ad hoc form of government for the fleet. One of the things is the fleet capturing, when a ship captured anything, and their primary thing wasn't going after ships, but raiding villages. And I assume monasteries, wherever the gold could be found. And sometimes they would take over the leadership of the village and they would levy taxes, and that was another source of income for them. But whenever a ship had loot, it was presented to the entire fleet, and then they kept the capturing ship would retain 20%, and the rest was put into the ships or the fleet's collective fund. And from what I found, like I said, she terrorized mostly villages in South China. Now, she knew when it was time to give up. So she negotiated an amnesty with the Chinese. She was able to keep her wealth, and she walked away from piracy. Eventually, she returned to Canton, where she opened a gambling house.
Oh,
and
I'm in.
she died in Canton in 1844. So
Wow.
she was, she lived a long life.
Oh, in 1844
So that
too,
would've-
like
she
a
would've
lot
been,
later.
69? Is that right? 'Cause
Oh, you're
said
asking me to do math?
I know. That's way too well.
1775,
Yes, you're right.
So
You're right.
25 plus 44, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. I was like, it's so interesting too, especially because I think it's a lot for women too, especially back then. Like you always hear of like, oh, you marry and have a baby and stuff like that. It's so cool though that you have these women who are doing all these cool things. Like, man, like I couldn't say I was a pirate and did all this thing, like was vicious, whatever. That's crazy. That's so cool.
Well,
like, all these things.
Think about this. If if Anne had not been aboard the Revenge, would anyone have ever known Mary Read was a woman? And if she was just another sailor on the ship or another pirate, would we have ever heard of her?
Yeah.
And it just makes you wonder how many other women decided to dress as men, either because they couldn't find a job or they just didn't fit in, or they had some tragedy in their life, like Mary losing her husband, and decided to move on.
Well, there's got to be some way that you have to prepare, like keep your family afloat, and if it means that you have to dress up as a man and be a pirate and do what you need to get the job done, I mean, good for them for doing that. I mean, listen, taking every probably negative thing they ever did aside, I mean, they got get their families what they needed. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, that wraps it up for my segment.
All right. Well, thank you all very much for listening. I've enjoyed this episode, even though I wasn't as put together as I usually am.
Oh, listen, I never am.
So we will catch y'all next time. So thanks for listening.
Oh yeah,
And,
what's the socials again, Thomas? I know we're having some issues, but
we'll just go with RTW Wild for now, and I can put it in the
Show notes and everything.
Summary. Yeah, so we'll do that. Again, I'm working on Instagram, and I will update our summaries on every episode after I fix our Instagram and our Facebook. So until then, thank you. So glad we are now over 200.
I know
We're
it.
well over 200 now.
Yes.
I'm going to correspond. I'm telling you, I've told you guys this kind of off air that every single time we hit a milestone, I'm going to email Crime Junkie.
Yeah.
Until we're at like 500,000. I want an episode. So that's what I'm working for.
So 500,000, we're getting an episode with Crime Junkie.
Awesome.
I'm joking.
Awesome.
It's a joke.
Ashley,
It's a joke,
Britt,
but
Britt.
it's what we want. But thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
All right. Bye, you guys.
Bye.